Now, are you looking at the PowerPoint, 7 biggest
I
pricing
am.
mistakes?
I am.
All right. Goodness gracious, what a day. All right. So, if you hadn't figured it out by now, pricing is both part art and part science, and it requires a bit of research. Um, but with valuation, when you're pricing a home, key takeaways, the property, the houses go up in value. The stuff in them typically does not. Okay. So as we're coming into a more balanced a balanced marketplace, there's a lot more opportunities to make sure that we've got the pricing right. And I think there's still a lot of agents that are overpricing based off of the conditions that we were at before, and some of the key takeaways that we're going to talk about are going to influence that. So,
Well,
but there are 6 mistakes that agents and sellers, for that matter, will typically make um, during the opening, when they're selecting the opening list price, and then one huge mistake that they make after the fact. Okay, after they go
okay.
live. Yeah,
I want to ask a quick question. You might cover it. You
you go
said
ahead.
inside the house. So I don't know that we've ever covered this. How do people make a decision on the washer, dryer, all that inside the refrigerator and all that? Are we gonna cover that, or did you cover uh pricing for that? Because I know that's not in the sales price. Um,
Correct. And so typically there is no actual value assigned to them. It is personal property that is being included with the real property simply as a matter of convenience for the sellers, really. So whether or not they want to take the refrigerator or the washer and dryer is completely up to them. They just simply check the box on the seller's property disclosure to indicate that it is included or it is not included. It's not well, the house is this much and the refrigerator and the appliances are this much. It's just all lumped in together. Does that make sense?
yes, and that's how I thought it was. But when you mentioned the inside, I wasn't sure
No. So
if you were
I mean,
saying.
to be honest with you, even there are rare situations where somebody will list a home and include all of the furnishings and content in it. It's rare, and that is usually only typically in a luxury type listing where somebody wants to buy the home and all of the furniture included. Um, but it's rare. It's very, very rare. And it also really messes up the lenders because they're like, well, how much value is the real property versus the personal property? So we just handle those on one-off type situations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hey, Chris, how are you, man? Sparsely attended this morning. Welcome aboard. Bring it on, brother. So we're talking about key takeaways for mistakes that agents and sellers make when they're initially pricing homes. Okay. All right. Let me get back into my slides here. Hang on just a second. Okay. We back on the slides there, Tippy?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. So the first mistake that is often made by sellers and as well as agents is pricing to the unsolds rather than the solds. Okay. So trick question: what's the quantity of recommended number of comparables in a CMA?
6 to 8.
Correct. 6 to 8. So what should be the distribution of those in terms of their status? Any ideas?
I can guess.
Go for it. Guess. I'd love to hear it.
So active, pending, closed, maybe.
True. But in what quantities? Where would you weight them? How would you weight them?
Oh, let's see. So, would you distribute them evenly, or do you want more closed because
Uh,
that is the true value? Yeah.
there you go. So a good CMA is usually going to include maybe one or two actives, maybe one pending, but more heavily weighted towards the sold. So, if you've got six in your CMA, I'd probably do one active, one pending, and the rest sold. If you've got eight, I'd maybe do two active, one pending, and the rest sold. Um, the majority of your comparables should be sold properties, because think about it. An active listing is has I could list a home for 500,000 and it may be only worth 150. Does that mean I'm going to get it? Am I going to get 500,000? Of course it doesn't. So the whereas sold homes, that's based in reality, and you have the opportunity to be able to show somebody exact reality of what the actual home sold for. Okay. All right. Are we back on the slides again, people? Yes. Okay. So you want to have them both actives, but you also want to have the solds on there. And also, just out of here, I always include expireds and withdrawns, because sometimes the expireds especially can tell you what a home will not sell for. Okay, how many times have we all pulled up a CMA and had some expireds in there, and you quickly see, well, there's the number that a 4-bedroom, 3-bath in this area will not sell for, because they've got it listed $30,000 or $40,000 over the asking price. All right. Any questions about that so far? So that's point number one. Pricing to the unsolds rather than the solds is a big mistake, and you want to avoid it. Okay. Um, the next biggest mistake that agents and or their sellers will often make in pricing the home is placing too much value and too much faith on the amenities and the unique amenities within your home. So it is something called the endowment effect. I didn't know this about psychology, but it basically is the tendency to overvalue things simply because you own them. If everybody loves their own stuff, now you've got a name of that you can put behind it and say, well, that's called the endowment effect, and it's a tendency to overvalue things just because you own them. All right. The amenities, such as things like the granite countertops and the bathroom fixtures and the high-end appliances and the landscaping that you've done in the backyard and the pool that you installed, all of those do have value, but that value quite often is secondary to the location, the size of the property, those kind of things. All right. So keep that in mind. It is not always a true one-to-one relationship there. All right. I like this. Oh my gosh, this listing description is in all caps. I must see this home right away. The craziness that we encounter in our business, right, folks? All right. Number three of the mistakes that agents and their sellers will often make is trying to get the full value for the improvements that they have made to the home. So similar to the amenities, this is also could also be in something that you can do, but this tends to be more about um, the project that you took on, that bathroom renovation that you spent $25,000 for. So you're expecting to get $25,000 more out of the sales price of the home. Or the alternate scenario is, if you watch too much HD TV, you might go, well, I could put $5,000 into this bathroom and I'm going to be able to get $15,000 more out of the sales price of the home. Also, not always necessarily the truth. Okay, so here you've got the example of somebody that says 10 years ago they bought the home for 500, then they spent 50 grand on a kitchen, and then 2 years later they spent $25,000 on the roof repairs. So they think that the home is worth 575. Um, and is that an accurate assumption? Maybe it might be more. It might be less for the amenities, but more for the just simple the appreciation of the home. But the reality of it is you would almost never get a full one-to-one relationship on return on investment for the improvements that you've made in a home. So how do you figure out what that looks like then? And do you and if you ever have a client that's arguing with you about it, how do you prove that? Well, I'm giving you the source. There's a great source and it's online and it's readily available and you can always access it. Remodeling Magazine has a thing called cost versus value. And I'm going to show you in the next slide. But essentially, what this shows is for various projects, some of them have a higher return on the investment than others, but in general, you can say confidently that any type of improvement in the home is only going to get about 60 to 70 cents on the dollar for the value of that improvement. Okay, so let's look at some specific examples. All I did was simply come in here and here's the website, this remodeling magazine, and all I did was Google remodeling magazine or cost versus value, and this chart pulls up, and all you can do is come in here, fill this bad boy out. Looks like it's taken a long time, but you can literally select Atlanta, Georgia, and download this guide, and it's gonna look something like this. And you can see in Atlanta, you can see the cost recouped. So the higher the value here is 72% for a minor kitchen remodel. That's probably the highest return on your investment. But look at these. Some of these are down into the 40%. Pretty low. Here's the highest one, a garage door replacement. You can almost get 92% of the value for that. That actually might make sense for most people. But this is also an argument for your clients that are like, well, I have so much work to do. I have to paint, I have to do, I have to repair this, I have to get new flooring, I have to do all these things. This is where you can come back and say, well, you may not want to engage in that because you not don't always get the cost versus the value out of it. Okay, so there are two arguments here. Any
Uh,
questions on this? Go ahead.
I just learned something that seems counterintuitive. Well, backwards. I just learned that remodel is what you're saying here, and
Hmm.
renovation, which sounds to me like it would be more structural work, is actually not anything structural. It's more of the decorative type stuff.
I think you are correct.
That's crazy.
Hmm. I hear you
Mhm.
loud and clear.
So if we just paint, that's renovating.
It's a minor renovation. Yeah,
So what's
that
a
would
major
we.
renovation?
I would say dealing with the structure. Anything dealing with structure and restructuring of the home is probably going to be more expensive.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Not really to me, because I still don't understand. How can renovating be less than remodeling? I don't get it, but okay.
I tell you what. Let's chat about it offline
Okay.
after. Okay. All right. Fourth biggest mistake of the seven that we're going to talk about: pricing based off what the sellers need. So how many times have we heard this? Seller sits down with you at the listing department and says, "Well, I've got to get 350 in order to be able to make the down payment on the other end of my transaction." All right. With all due respect, your response to that, without being flippant, should be, guess what? Doesn't matter what you need. What you need and what you get are two entirely different things. Okay. The reality of it is just like it says right here, no one cares what you need. Okay. Buyers don't price in a vacuum. They're going to put their offer in on the homes that have sold, not on what you need. Okay. So think about this. Sellers are going to get low offers. When you get a low ball offer from these investors, you don't automatically say, well, but that's all they can pay. You go, no, this is what I need. So if you don't give a discount based on need, then don't expect them to give you a discount or give you premium because of your need. Does that make sense? Sometimes people cannot see the forest for the trees, and when you point it out to them that there's two sides to every equation, and you got to think about the other side of that equation, it really does. It can make a big difference. All right. This has nothing to do with that slide, but I liked it anyway because this was I put this thing together back in the height of when all the craziness was happening, and people were writing the letters with the love letters and all that kind of stuff. Give you a minute to read that. It's actually quite humorous. All righty. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5. Oh, this is a big one. The Zillow's estimate, or the AVM. Everybody wants to talk about their automated valuation model. If anybody doesn't know what the AVM stands for, Zillow's estimate is the same thing. It's a generic, it is a brand name for Zillow's version of the automated valuation model. For the layperson, you would describe this as a computer algorithm in the sky, some giant formula that you and I never see what goes into it. It just spits out a number. Okay, so Zillow freely admits that their estimates have a median error rate of 8%. They say that literally on their website. Okay, that's their estimate. However, the reality of it is something altogether different. And this is the best argument that you can give to anybody who says, well, my Zestimate is X. Well, the reality of it is the Zillow CEO himself, this guy, Spencer Raskoff, sold his own home for 60% of its own Zillow's estimate value. Okay, so if the Zestimate value was that good, if it was good enough for you to rely on it and you want me to rely on it, how come the Zillow CEO himself didn't sell his own home for his Zestimate value? Okay, pretty much shoots that one down right now. And right there's the numbers, 1.75 million, and he sold it for 1.05. All right, and it just drives home the point that your CMA is the best part, the biggest part of your value proposition to the seller. The advice you provide to him on the pricing of the home is absolutely critical. And if you don't believe this statistic, there is another one that you can use. Does everybody recognize with this page? This is in one of the tools that we currently have. This comes from the Toolkit CMA, and it's one of the pages in there, which once you select the comps that you are selecting, it goes through and it tells you there were 4 solds, and it tells you what their sold price was versus what their estimate was at the time that they sold, and how badly they were off. And in this particular case, this is one of my recent listings, was off 22.3%. Pretty dramatic, right? So can you trust the Zillow's estimate or an AVM? You sure cannot. All right. Let me show you one of the other AVMs. So just to give you an idea, any brand new people, this is what we're talking about. This estimated value, this real AVM is the trademark for CoreLogic's version of this document. And in my case, this is the same home that we've done the CMA in parts 1 through 4 that we just finished up. This is the home that my client thinks it might be worth 450, 460, somewhere in there. I think it's 390 through 410, and golly, look at where the real AVM puts it. Pretty much, and I just did this independently. I just checked this morning, but it pretty much puts it right where I'm thinking my number is getting pretty close to. All right. Let me explain one other thing about the real AVM. That you might be able to talk to your clients about is this confidence score. Confidence score, the higher this confidence score, the more confident this number is likely to be. Okay, so Going back to college statistics, if anybody of y'all remember those, but essentially an 86% confidence score mean that there's very little variability in the data. So the more reliable this number is. So if you ever need an explanation for this, it's right down here. The confidence score is right here, and it ranges between 50 and 100. So if you've got a confidence score that's down into the 60%, this number is not very reliable. There's just so much variability in the data that it's harder to tell. Okay. But we've all driven into neighborhoods there where every house floor plan looks almost exactly the same, every exterior is almost exactly the same. The floor plans look similar, the size is similar, the ages are all similar. Those neighborhoods are real easy to do a CMA in, and for that matter, real easy to do an AVM in. They get harder the more unique the neighborhood is or the older the neighborhood is. Okay. All right. So that's that. Next, we are going to talk about the last mistake that we typically will make um, when we're selecting the price, and that is pricing in anticipation of the strong sellers market that we have been in. Okay. Sellers and agents that price high in anticipation of where they think the market will drive the price, the results are almost always going to be disappointing. Your days on the market are going to be longer. Chris is shaking his head because he's been there and he's done this. Am I right, brother? Your days on the market's going to go up. You're going to have slower showing activity. You're going to have frustrated sellers. You are going to be frustrated. The amount of work that you're going to have to do in staying in touch with your contact on a weekly basis to inform them about the listing and what's going wrong or what's not going right. You're going to have increased chances of buyer terminations. You're going to work 3 times as hard when you put the home under contract 3 times because it terminated twice beforehand. All right. So pricing at or below the market will almost always drive an intense buyer demand that can drive the price up well over the asking price. Seen it, been there, done that. We've all seen it. We've all got the t-shirt. We should capitalize on it and talk to our sellers about it. Okay. Show them some specific examples. All right. And the last mistake is the mistake that we make when we put the listing live and then we don't do anything with it, which is the set it and forget it. We never know how the market is going to respond to the pricing that we have selected. So it is not an accurate position to be able to just pick a number at random, throw it on the MLS, and never look back again. We have to consistently and constantly be looking for the reaction from the market and adjusting our strategy based off of what we see. And these are the tools that we know that we can use to help how determine how the market is responding. Of course, we're going to get feedback from agents and the buyers. We're going to get some reports that show how much traffic the home is getting online, i.e., the Golden Ruler report. We're going to get the showing traffic report, the listing activity report. We may or may not have offers to be able to present as evidence of the pricing decisions that we've made. We can go back to our CMA and look at, did we have any of the comps that were in our CMA that were pending before or actives before? Have they sold since then? And if so, at what price? And for that matter, also, if we've had 20 showings at our home and we've reduced the price since then, it might be a good time to look back at the buyers that came when it was at the higher price and see if they're more interested now that it's at the lower price. Right. And last but not least, my mantra, you've heard me say this many times, but if you are going to get a price improvement or a price reductions is what you and I talk about. Anytime we're talking to a client, it's a price improvement, right? They have to be earned and not given. So you have to be able to show your client why their listing is not selling in order to be able to earn that price reduction. All right. And then, of course, the best mantra, the best scripting for communicating to to your clients is setting the expectation early and often. Once we go live, the criteria that we're going to be looking for here is 3 to 5 showings per week, and for every 10 to 15 showings, we should be receiving an offer. If we're not meeting any of these criteria, then it usually means that the market is not reacting the way we thought they were going to, and it's going to require a strategy to a change in strategy to get the market to respond. And that's not automatically a price reduction. It could be a change in the marketing strategy. It could be an open house. It could be, refreshing the listing, which is something else that we can do. Okay. That is all I have for you officially now. What questions do you have for me today? Okay. All right, everybody.
I have a quick one. So when you said that you'll tell the people, you'll show them examples, where would you get the examples to show them like this is just not a good idea and here's why?
Well, so you can show maybe one of your comps that you did was you can tell by looking at the list price versus the sold price that they did exactly what you may be advocating to your client to do. Check this comp out. They listed $20,000 under, and they ended up selling $15,000 over asking price. This is a good example of exactly what I might be advocating to you. Okay. I can also pull out in my case, you may not have the ability to do this, but I can show you comps of other listings that I have sold that employed the same strategy, and you can show them evidence of, hey, we went in $10,000 under asking and ended up going, $8,000 over. So you show them real world examples within the comps or other listings that you may have sold. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Have a great Monday and a great week, everybody. Talk to you soon.